What if your brain could crave studying the same way it craves scrolling on your phone? Sounds fake. But that's exactly why this matters. Because if you've ever sat down to study, opened your laptop, touched your book, and then somehow ended up checking one notification, one video, one random tab, the problem may not be that you lack discipline. The problem may be that your brain has been trained to chase the wrong reward. Because your brain does not wake up asking, "What's most important for my future?" It asks, "What's easiest to feel good from right now?" That's why a 10-second scroll can beat a goal you've cared about for months, not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because your reward system has learned to worship speed. And this is where people start turning on themselves. I have no discipline. I always ruin my own plans. Other people can focus. Why can't I? But shame is terrible fuel. It burns fast, then leaves you emptier than before. So this video is not about forcing yourself harder, about changing what your brain expects from studying. Here's the first big shift. Dopamine is not really pleasure the way most people talk about it. It's not just the reward. It's the anticipation of reward, the pull toward something. The maybe this will feel good chemical. That's why scrolling is so powerful. It keeps promising your brain that the next thing might be the hit. Studying usually doesn't make that promise at the beginning. It feels quiet, flat, friction heavy. You open the page and your brain goes, "That's it, no color, no novelty, no instant reward." So it backs away, and that first resistance feels personal. But it isn't. It's just a reward system that has been trained for speed, trying to survive silence. So the goal is not to magically make studying exciting in the first 5 seconds. That's not realistic. The goal is to teach your brain to expect a reward from staying with the work. If scrolling owns anticipation, you lose. But if studying starts owning anticipation, everything changes. This is what I call dopamine loading. And no, it's not about giving yourself more stimulation. It's the opposite. You're creating the conditions that make ordinary focus feel rewarding again. 3 parts: lower the noise, create expectation, reward the effort. That's the loop. First, lower the noise. This is where most people lose before they even begin. They go from short-form content, messages, random tabs, background noise, straight into studying. Then wonder why the textbook feels dead. Of course it does. Your brain just came from fireworks. Page of notes cannot compete with fireworks. So before you study, stop feeding your brain little hits. No reels, no random YouTube, no pointless checking. Give yourself 20 or 30 minutes where nothing exciting happens. Sit quietly. Walk slowly. Drink water. Look out the window. Let boredom arrive. Boredom is not the enemy here. Boredom is the reset. Most people never stay in that quiet long enough. The second nothing is happening, they grab the phone. And that matters more than they think. Because if your brain never gets bored, it never gets hungry for depth. It only stays hungry for stimulation. Second, create expectation. Don't sit down thinking, "I have to suffer through this." That's poison. Instead, sit down thinking, "I'm about to get one clean win, one page understood, one problem solved, one concept that finally clicks." Your brain responds differently when it believes a reward is possible. This sounds tiny. It's not. The sentence in your head changes the chemistry of the moment. "I have to study" creates drag. "I'm about to get one clean win" creates movement. Same desk, same book, different emotional entry points. Third, reward the effort, not the escape. This is where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They focus for 25 minutes, then reward themselves with the exact thing that destroys the next hour. One scroll becomes 20 minutes, one video becomes 3. And now the brain learns the wrong lesson. Effort ends in escape. You need a different lesson. Effort ends in a win. So after a study block, keep the reward low, stimulation but real. Stretch, walk, drink cold water, mark the page, whisper good. That's one. Small completion cues matter. They teach your brain that progress has a taste. So here's the whole framework in one sentence. Quiet. Expect. Reward. Quiet before the work. Expect something from the session. Reward the effort without detonating your attention. That's how you stop making study feel like punishment and start making it feel like momentum. Here's what this looks like tomorrow. You wake up and your phone is not the first thing teaching your brain what being alive feels like. You leave it face down. You drink water. Open the curtain. Move a little. Keep the first part of the morning calm on purpose. Because if the day starts loud, your focus has to compete with that noise for hours. Then don't ask yourself for a heroic day. Ask for one clean round, 15 minutes if that's all you've got, 25 if you're ready. The goal is not intensity. The goal is repeatability. Can you do this again tomorrow? Can your brain survive the start and want to come back? That's what matters. This is one of the biggest shifts you can make. Stop measuring studying by how intense it feels. Start measuring it by how often you can return to it without dread. Because a system that looks impressive for one day but collapses by Wednesday is not discipline. It's drama. And somewhere in those sessions, something subtle starts happening. A page makes sense. The problem clicks. 10 minutes pass, and you realize you didn't reach for your phone. Then 20. Then maybe 30. And suddenly the work feels cleaner than the chaos, not more exciting. Better. That's the first real payoff. Not motivation. Evidence. Evidence that your brain is not broken. Evidence that focus can become rewarding again. Most people miss this because they're still obsessed with how hard the start felt. But the start is not the whole story. Stay long enough to meet the click. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. The first few days may feel worse before they feel better, because easy dopamine has trained your brain to expect constant novelty. When you pull that away, normal effort feels flat for a while. That doesn't mean the method is failing. It means your brain is recalibrating. And if you don't know that ahead of time, you'll misread the whole process. You'll think, see, I still want my phone. I still don't feel like studying. Nothing changed. But that urge is not proof that you can't focus. It's proof that your old pattern is losing easy control. Then comes the moment that makes all of this worth it. One day you sit down, and the work starts faster. Not instantly, just faster. The drag is smaller. The urge to escape is quieter. You get through one block, then another, and now studying feels less like pain management and more like momentum. That's the second emotional spike, because now you're not just hoping this works. You're feeling it. Understanding starts giving you a real hit. Finishing gives you something scrolling never gave you: self-respect. Not just stimulation. Self-respect. So here's your challenge. Not forever, 5 days. Protect the beginning of your morning. Lower the noise before your first session. Visualize one clean win. Do one focus block. Reward effort without feeding distraction. Then repeat. That's enough to give your brain a different story about what studying is. Because maybe the real problem was never that you were bad at studying. Maybe your brain was just overfed on noise and undertrained in depth. That's a different problem, and it's a fixable one. You are not fighting your brain. You are reprogramming it. One quieter start, one clean win, one repeated loop at a time. And if you do that long enough, studying stops being the thing you have to force and starts becoming the thing your brain actually wants.